My section is growing up between Christian faith, Filipino culture, and American life, but from the child's perspective. So, interesting. And then becoming a mom myself and understanding some things. But first disclaimer. This section is not again meant to pass on judgment in your own parenting journey. I am not perfect as a parent. I am just sharing some of my experiences or some of the experiences that I've observed from the people around me. So I'm not perfect, but I want you to know also that God chose you to be your children's parent. And that is not something that we should take lightly. So God chose you specifically, knowing your specific upbringings, how you were brought up by your own parents. It's uniquely to your own strengths and your weaknesses. So again, the encouragement here is that the best home for your kid is you. Not anyone else. God chose you. So every parenting journey is different, but we are not alone in it. So that is my disclaimer. This isn't a comprehensive list of everything because again, we don't have this time to discuss everything, and every child is different. Their experiences are different. So this might not apply to your child, but this is just an overgeneralization. I'm happy to chat afterwards if you have other questions. And also, it's okay if you don't agree with everything I say. So, just wanted to stay out there. But first, a little bit about me. I was born in Saudi Arabia. My dad was there for work. I mentioned it before, and then it was when I was 7 years old we moved here to Richmond. So I was kind of old enough that I had some of the Filipino culture because I went to a private school in Saudi. So all of my teachers and all my classmates were Filipino, so I kind of had some of the Filipino culture. But at the same time, I was young enough that I could still be molded by American culture at 7 years old. I believe I was in first or second grade, so very young. And so all of that. So here are some of the things that I've observed. Struggles of a Christian first-gen Filipino immigrants. That's a handful, but you do have a unique experience because you are first generation from your family from the Philippines living here in America, and that no one else has the experience that you have in your family, usually. So you can't, like for me, I didn't grow up with my grandparents at all. My grandparents, and starting even from Saudi Arabia, I didn't grow up with grandparents. So I didn't have the typical multi-generational family home growing up that most Filipinos do, right? So anyways, okay. Number one, feeling caught between two ethnic cultures. So we understand this. Okay, so number one, on one hand, for school, I'm too Filipino. Everyone can make fun of you for your upbringing, your thought processes, your jokes sometimes. Sometimes I remember in school I made this like Santa Claus joke, but it's Saint Nicholas here. It's not Santa. So they didn't get my jokes. And anyways, I was in like first grade, but like you don't think anything of it as a second grader. But again, I come to school, everyone's like, oh, you're different. And then I come home and I'm like, you're too American now. Like, you're Filipino, you should be this, you should be that. And so the struggle there is that like it's hard to belong. It's hard to know where I belong. And it's just the pull of both cultures, right? So at home, you're expected to traditions, respecting elders, the family hierarchy, close family involvement, everyone's kind of close knit, multi-generational homes, and then the fact that my decision affects the whole family. That's kind of some of the Filipino culture and tradition. But then in America, outside, American culture emphasizes independence. They emphasize self-expression, making your own decisions. Independence by 18 years old. I've heard some parents be like, I can't wait till my kid's 18 and they're out of the house. I'm still at home. Moving away for college, right? That's kind of the American norm that soon. So, anyways, and then when your kids are older, I've heard some of our youth say this, but like leaving the life that they had in the Philippines was really hard. Having to make new friends here. And so, like, this can be a lot to process as a young kid who's trying to figure out who they are. They're trying to figure out what their strengths are, like their identity. This can feel like a lot. It's very, there's a lot of pressure there. And then next, kind of ties in with it, but racism and feeling different. This is kind of our reality. What can happen is that classmates may and teachers may mispronounce their names. And it might not be a big deal, but you know, if again and again and again you're reminding someone how to say your name, it can make you feel like you're different, right? You know, if you're not normal, you don't belong. Sometimes you'll get the questions like, where are you really from? Or like, are you Chinese? Or like, you know what I mean? You get those questions and sometimes it's like not a big deal, but then it's like, like I don't know. It can be confusing again for someone who's trying to figure out their identity. They can also be teased about food, about accents, about traditions, and this can affect their self-esteem and identity. Number three, Christianity being tied to obedience. And so this is, I know this is not the intention of parents, but it can come off this way that for some people, Christianity can feel like just a set of rules, what I can do and what I can't do, rather than it being experienced as a personal faith. So, you know, growing up, I always heard this. Don't date too young. Don't have sex before marriage. Don't drink. Don't swear. Go to church. Pray. Respect your parents. And so sometimes Christianity, study first. Yes. Sometimes that's not the intention. Again, I understand that it can be perceived by the child that way, that it's just a list of things that they can and can't do. And they may obey while they're young without understanding and eventually wonder whether they actually believe the things that you do. And so at some point, they're going to have to come to the realization, like, do I believe this for myself? They have to make that decision in their life eventually. And number four, fear of disappointing family. Also, I asked Joshua to chime in whenever, just because. Sorry, I'm a little sick. I partied a little too hard at the BTS concert. So, anyways. Fear of disappointing family. Filipino families can place a strong emphasis on family reputation, respect, and avoiding shame. And so for here, what can happen is that, maybe not even just Filipinos, but the child's behavior can then become a reflection of how good a parent is, right? That's oftentimes what we think. But what I'm learning as a parent is it's not, because your role as a parent is to guide them, yes. God put you in their life for that reason, but at the same time, they are their own person, and you can't control everything. And so when your kid is acting up, just know that it is not a reflection of your parent. That doesn't mean you're a bad parent because your kid is acting up or made a mistake. There's grace, again, but your value isn't tied to your child's behavior. So I just want you to understand that. But again, what Tita Sharon and my mom have been saying, it's about the heart transformation. It's not about behavior. But it's easy to feel that way. And so this next point kind of ties in with that. What happens then is there's difficulty expressing disagreement with parents because, as my mom said, respecting your parents means listening to them. So disagreeing can feel morally wrong. They may have questions but hesitate to ask because they don't want to be perceived as rebellious or disrespectful. You know, what I hear sometimes is, "Wag kang sumasagot sa magulang mo," or "Wala kang hiya." You know, like those are some of the things that we hear on the TV shows. I never heard that. But so then, like, what happens is they're not going to want to share things with you. It's because they're going to say, like, "Oh, I'm being disrespectful if I disagree." But they're allowed to disagree. And again, it's their job still to guide and to parent them in that way. Number six. This one. We sacrifice everything for you. In other words, utang na loob. Right? Right? That's what it is. And so immigrant parents often remind their children that they came to America to provide better opportunities. And that's not a wrong thing. And growing up, again, I heard stories of the sacrifices my parents made. The like yeah, I remember my mom, she, left her family so she could go to college so that this could happen. And then here we are in America. Like, I think about those sacrifices often, but the child can feel tremendous gratitude and pressure at the same time. The thinking can become our parents sacrifice so much that we have to succeed. And so this can make failure feel like um, it can make failure, changing majors, choosing an unconventional career, or simply wanting a different life. It feels like betraying the family. Like there's the academic pressure. It was either only you're going to be an IT person or a nurse or a doctor or a lawyer. Those were the only things I remember when I was talking to my mom about college. I was like, I want to be a music major. And I was like, oh, no. I was like, I'm going to be a psych major. And my mom was like, no, you're not going to make money out of that. And so I listened and I went for IT. But anyways, the point is there's this pressure, right, to want to make our parents' sacrifices worth it. And I think that is something our American counterparts probably don't experience very often. I think they take it for granted. It's easy for them to take it for granted, but we're aware of it, and it builds pressure, which is why there's these mounting anxiety that can come with making these decisions. Okay.
Guilty.
I know we all did. We all did. We all experienced it. And so number seven, financial awareness. Even if the family is stable, children can often become aware of financial sacrifices more than their American peers, which can result in asking for less expensive things, feel guilty about spending money, work early to help the family, and then they understand the values sooner than many classmates will. I mean, again, I remember going to Captain D's when we first came here was a treat. But now, like, Captain D's was like my house. I don't know. So I understand that, and I think the way it plays out in my parenting now is I want to buy my kids the toys I never got to experience, right? So that's how it's playing out in my life. And so if Alyssa asked for that dollhouse, I want to buy her that dollhouse because I remember when I couldn't buy it because, finances are tight. And so just know that this plays out, it has the long term effect on your children. So again, like for me now, I'm realizing that's why I want to buy my kids these dumpling squishies or whatever. That's so hard to find is because I want them to experience the things that I never got to as a kid. Not that it's a bad thing, right? Um, so next, number eight, family loyalty versus independence. So as they grow older, children may want to move away for college, date someone outside their culture, choose a different career, set personal boundaries. And these decisions can create feelings of guilt because family loyalty is often deeply valued. And so, I mean, yeah. I remember growing up, like, my parents, there was this expectation of like, all right, we're gonna send you off to college, you're gonna go to do IT, you're gonna make money, and once you graduate, you are going to help send your sister to school, right? That's kind of the Filipino expectation is you're gonna help your siblings go to school, but I graduated college and I became a missionary and I wasn't making enough to help support my sister. And so my parents have been so gracious in learning, like not to continue that. But there was that pressure again there of like, do I follow the calling that I feel like God placed in my life? But then what about the pressures of providing for my family. So again, it's kind of just like this inner world, maybe this inner thinking that you are not aware of. But these are some of the things that they're probably going to experience. And so to kind of briefly sum things up, I have um, this chart where at home it's obey our parents, put family first, stay humble, faith guides every decision, preserve Filipino culture, but outside they're hearing things that are saying be independent, follow your own dreams, promote yourself, think of yourself, fit into the American culture. So just know that like you understand Filipino culture, but they're growing up in one where they hear it from one side and they hear another conflicting one from the other side. So it's hard to know and balance as they're figuring out who they are. So we're gonna wrap this up with advice for parents. I have 4 points here. And the doctor's gonna chime in here. But number one, raise your child, not your replacement. One. Okay, number one, give them room to become the person that God uniquely made them to be. Our children are not meant to simply recreate our lives or fulfill the dreams we didn't get to pursue. Give them room to be the person that God made them to be. So, got that something.
So for this part, um, I was putting my thoughts this morning, asking as I came in. And I was like, oh, my thoughts are jumbled. So I put it through ChatGPT, and I was very surprised at what it said. Essentially, my this part where raise your child and not your replacement. I think all our your children, all the kids in the church, they're all learning to be a good son or a daughter. Um, or they're learning that being a good son or a daughter isn't about becoming the son or daughter your parents expected. It's about learning how to remain the son or daughter while becoming the person God is calling them to be. So I think that is something that each of all the children are learning is to becoming. We want them to be a godly man, right? A godly woman, right? But they also don't want to disappoint our parents. So I think it's them learning how to um, be a good son or daughter while learning how to be a godly man or woman.
Yes. So just know that your child and even growing up within the same household will have their own unique journey. And so our goal isn't just to um our goal isn't just to um guide them towards the dreams that we had for ourselves, but to be curious about how God created them to be because they're growing up in a different world, right? Like with technology these days, you guys didn't have technology growing up. Um, Half of my life we didn't have technology growing up as a millennial. And so these days, like I'm watching Alyssa on YouTube and I'm like, what are you watching? This is just brain rot. And so they're being filled, there's so much stimulation. There's so much information that it's hard for them to digest and process everything. Because they're getting influencers, they're getting their classmates, they're getting their teachers, or everything online. And so it's hard for them to process everything and figure out, okay, who am I? Who did God make me to be? And then there's expectations from parents. And I know all parents mean well. I'm not trying to downplay that. All parents mean well for their children. They want the best for their children. They want their children to succeed. But at the same time, the child can perceive that as like surmounting pressure. I need to succeed. Again, I'm serious. Again, like I need to succeed for my parents. And it can feel like a lot.
It's like it's for children, especially for us who are so There's a lot of layers and overlapping layers of pressure that these kids uh, are feeling. They might not be aware of it. So like what Hannah was saying, there's like the racial pressure, right? Filipino American, and then you've got your Christian values, you've got your family values, and then like if there's more, if you have siblings, then you're being compared to them. And then on top of that, everyone has a kid in this church, so you're being compared to them, and all that pressure um, builds up on these children. So there's, I think there's to understand them just a little bit with more grace. To say there's a lot of pressure that they're feeling, and they might not understand where it's all coming from. I think the child, and not every child gets to have this insight. They need to um what? Yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, I mean, there's another point. Yeah, of course, it's hard. No, I buckled. There was a point in time where I didn't understand anything. I was going very through much depression. And a lot of things happened at that time real quickly. Really messy breakup, Chris dying, me flunking out of college, and then I think there was something else. Oh, and then my friend commit. Yeah, another classmate of mine committed suicide. So during that time, it was very crazy for me. So there, and then on top of that, I was still at church. Um, Back then, 5 a.m. prayer was here, physically walking around the church. So, and I was still in college then. So sometimes I'd wake up from my nap at the studio, and I'd have to be like, oh, my alarm went off, and I have to run over here. And sometimes I'm like groggy and stuff. But I would be here for prayer. And then everything, I mean, all of school, all of that stuff, it was just a lot of things, and I crumbled. But of course, I've learned how to like understand all the different layers of pressure, and so that I can like learn how to cope with it. But one more. Yeah. Now that you are at this stage, would you consider what your parents want to you like? I think they've done the best that they could do, right? I mean, every parent, you guys are all doing the best you can. Yeah. Now that you are known, yeah. No, I think you consider what you have done, what you have done to you, more than the right, legally, right? Not the violent people. Got it. I think yes, everything by the book is correct, right? Um, and I am happy that they did everything by the book, right? Um, there are just a lot of things that I didn't know how to handle. So it's not necessarily that my parents didn't teach me well, right? I think this whole thing is for us to understand children like us have a lot of pressure and they might not know how to handle it. So this whole like I want to say symposium, but it's but this whole like discussion about the things and like our point of view is to let you guys be aware of our perspective of it, because there's a lot of pressure that we go through. And I mean, I didn't even, I mean, Hannah understands this, you understands this. There's another added layer that we have as pressures that we're PKs. And I don't think I had, I mean, sure, yes, we were together, and even with like Jez and Ederlin, we were together and we had like that sense of fondness because we were all PKs. But I don't think I didn't get to vent fully until I was able to go to the summer internship with like some of the other churches, and we were talking to a couple other pastors' kids, and we were like, wait, we should just like get together so that way we can bond and like trauma bond. And like just vent to each other what we're feeling because we're all pastors' kids. And that was such a great night. And I mean, everyone was crying, everyone was like just yelling, but we were all very grateful that our parents were pastors because the thing that I remembered from that night was that we all left that night in that conversation feeling grateful that our parents were godly parents and that we were able to have this privilege, regardless of the pressure, privilege to grow up knowing who God is and being able to learn how to navigate and growing up to be men and women in God. So, yes, I think my parents did everything by the book, but I think my suggestion is learn that there's a lot of pressure that like, these kids are going through. Help them understand how to navigate the pressure so that they don't crumble or have an emotional breakdown.
This one, I'm very much guilty with this number one. When Jess was probably high school, I prayed for him that he'll become a preacher. I expected him. I remember he preached here for several times. I expected him. But as the days go by, I realized maybe it's not yet time. I didn't understand. I thought he's become full-time preacher, which my brothers followed after me. They became all full-time in the ministry, and I expected him. And I was at first I didn't really I cannot accept that he'll be different from what I used to do. But I realized, there's always timing for everything. Probably someday. And I was encouraged when I was reading Psalm 105, verse 5 to 7. So when God called Abraham, he revealed himself to him. And he also called Jacob, Isaac, and God revealed himself. It's not how God revealed to me that God will also reveal to Jacob. God has his own way to reveal himself to him. And when I realized, when I heard that, read that psalm, I understood that God has his own timing for him. Totally different, probably, from God's timing on my life. Yeah. So I'm guilty on that. One day, when Pastor Mar went home, I called B-Boy because I also expected him that when Pastor Mar is not around, B-Boy will be the next one. That's my boss, and and B-Boy seems to be he actually got hurt against me. Yeah. So it sometimes we're guilty of that. Yeah.
Jess is successful now. He's following God.
Yeah.
He's successful in the way that the Lord intended him to be. So it's okay.
Just want to gusto ko lang baka kasi nalimutan ko. Not everybody have like, or not all children or our children will be like Joshua who would learn how to navigate. At not everybody will have that support kasi they have support. Magkakasama sila. Pero some of our children might not have that support for them to vent out yung mga emotions nila, listening now, ngayon, gumaganti si Sana sa akin. Yun pala parang, na-realize mo, ganun kadaming layers, ano yung sabi niya? Tremendous, ano, tumultuous. Mga terms, but I heard mountains.
I've heard him talk about it.
So, I hope, try talaga natin yung ibigay ng mga anak natin.
And the pressure as preacher kids is tremendous also.
That's another story. All this to say the pressure again isn't bad necessarily. The pressure to do well again. The intentions are there as parents, but just want you to understand that it's not as clear cut. It's not as just like black and white for them. There's a lot of gray areas. There's a lot of other things that they need to consider. So, number two, build trust through open communication. So again, we've kind of discussed this already, but providing for their physical needs is yes, very important, but it is not everything that they need. They need your emotional support and guidance as they are figuring out who they are. Many immigrant families emphasize resilience and perseverance, which can be perceived by the children as just pray about it. Others have it worse. Be grateful. Again, with intent to encourage strength, but this can make it harder to talk openly about mental health, anxiety, or depression. Um, and so let them ask questions and talk about difficult topics. Seek to understand first where they're coming from before lecturing. Um, Sometimes they just need you to listen. Sometimes they don't need you to solve the problem for them. Sometimes they just need someone to listen to them and to be there for them. So, yeah.
Something I've learned. Example, people. For me, I learned during my that year. I went to therapy, and she was really nice. She was a Christian based therapist, and I was just venting out to her like, oh, life is so hard. Like, oh, why? I was like, well, it's because like no one's just in my corner. Everything's going falling apart. It's like, well, why do you think that is? And I was like, it's because my parents just don't love me. It's just like, why do you think that? And I was like, I don't know. She was like, well, I feel like you're just having a disconnect between what you're feeling and what reality is. And she, and the big thing that she told me was that she, I'm projecting that onto God. So, like, me feeling this emotional turmoil or depression, thinking that God didn't like me or loved me back because I felt these things that my parents or people around me or whatever I was just feeling. And she was like, that's not what the Bible says. Go look at what the Bible says. Listen to what he says. And he says he loves you. And she pointed out a bunch of verses. And I was like, ooh, wow, that's good. And then the thing that she told me and that I've learned in my 32 years of life is that I need to learn how to communicate with my parents. And it doesn't happen automatically. I have to intentionally build a bridge. And again, that's not every child will learn how to do this, right? Fine. I couldn't see everyone.
On your side. Sincerely ko lang po why I asked that since you said how to be a godly person, I'm not citing their time. I'm always, I know. I asked in that manner because the tone and reasoning is on your side. So when you're wrong, but I hear you. If there is something needs to be improved, I get it. But I, as a parent, would look at it this way. Just like at Sharon, right? In the beginning, discipline hurt. It might hurt. But where would I base my analogy and reasoning? On the result. That's why I use you guys as an example to my children.
not your complaints. I used you. Look at them. We are still in church. We are not perfect. Look at yourself. You talk about God. Then you will see where it's worth it. Then you will see how wicked parents are. And I have learned it in the Bible. I hear you, sister. You give me a disclaimer. It's gave me the strength to say something. I've learned a lot here in this congregation. I hear you. But then the more I see that the Bible is true, teach your children the way they should go in the Bible. And I use the same paradigm to children because I see you. That's why I ask. I want to bring to them. So a while ago, I know your answer will be that way. It's just part of it. It's a matter of thinking. Yeah. You agree?
Yes,
Okay.
because they need to feel heard. So that's the whole with the with what I was going to talk about is help me needed to know how to talk with my parents. So that way, because like the same way that we talk with God, right? We have to pray, and then we also have to read the Bible. It's an open two-way relationship, right? Same thing that we need to do with our children. And like we need to have that open communication as well. For me, I've learned just because I like to psychoanalyze a lot of people, and not every child is this insightful, right? So that's why I'm saying, please help them be able to navigate. So yeah, discernment, and then like with the open communication, like you know your children's friends, right? You know which one's the meek one. You know which one's the emotional one. You know which one's the angry one. How you I mean, as they grow older, there's more problems. There's more things that you have to navigate, right? But you know how to talk to each one of them, right? Same way that I've learned to talk with my parents. My dad is very results oriented, right? The first reaction or anything that whenever our conversation starts, did you get your car fixed? Did you file your taxes? Did you do X, Y, or Z? Right? But and I could take that, and I have taken it as something defensive, right? Maybe I forgot about it, right? I forgot to file my taxes or something. Like, and I could defensively respond to that, right? And then he feels like I'm disrespecting him, or and then we just argue and then we don't communicate, right? But I've learned I don't want to argue. I want to communicate because I actually like talk to my parents. They're very insightful people, and I want to get past the things that are triggering me to be angry or triggering them to be angry at me. That is the part where I think the parent and child communication needs to learn. It can be you can be upfront about it, or you can just try and navigate it like on your end, right? So for me, I've learned that is very results oriented. It doesn't mean that he doesn't care about me. He cares because he wants to know how I'm handling it. He wants to know that I can handle it, or does he need to support me? And I've learned that. That's my insight, right? For mommy, what you guys, Tita Shana said, mommy is very typical Asian mom. She is very emotionally reactive. Usually it's if I say, Ma, sakit yung likod ko. She go, ha? Bakit? Bakit? Why is your back hurting? I'm like, oh no. How about you know? It just hurts your mom. Pero she'll be all barking and yelling, and she's gonna get the epicident oil, and she goes, like, then she'll do the epicent oil, pray over me while she's massaging that area, and she'll be like, "Do you need any lugaw or anything? How you meron kang fever or anything?" I'm like, "No." So Ma is very emotional reactive, right? And I've learned that like she's not emotionally reactive in an angry way. She's just angry that something bad happened, and that's her normal reaction. So I've learned to, instead of her saying, instead of her response to something that I have just actually said, instead of being like, "Ah, I told you, I don't know," and being defensive about it, I just let her have her emotions. I've learned, yes, I taught the children this and like the youth, your emotions are valid, but so are your parents. You guys have emotions too, and I've had to learn this. That you guys, parents, have emotions as well, and they are valid. The thing that I need, what I learned as a child is that I need to not take their reaction or their immediate response or emotion as something,
Judgment on you.
yeah, because they want to get somewhere to help me, right? Because I'm their child, I'm their son. So I've learned is when I come up to them, they have their reaction, I breathe. And some of the older youth, I've told them this too. I was like, look, your parents are gonna react however they're gonna react. You need to breathe 5 seconds. Breathe first, and then try to continue your discussion, okay? Because if you react immediately how they've reacted, your communication already ends. So I've learned I need to breathe, and then I bring it back up again, saying, "Okay, my back actually hurts right here, specifically, so that way they know, or be specific about something, so that way, I mean, you guys can't fix anything if you guys don't know what's wrong, right?" So I needed to learn how to not react to my parents' reaction and learn how to communicate around it. And I think that's another good advice for parents, for you guys as well, to not to immediately go to your reaction, your gut reaction. But if you do, it's okay. That's your emotions. That's valid. But just learn how to communicate past it. Because I mean, if someone stubs their toe, their reaction is so you can't stop that. That's your immediate reaction. But that doesn't stop your immediate reactions. Shouldn't stop you from being able to communicate with your children.
Yes. And the same goes with me, like for marriages, right? Like when you communicate, when I'm angry and I'm feeling a lot of pressure and whatever, and I ignore B-boy, he's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I'm bad." He's like, "Why?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like that happens, but I just need space, right? I need time to process my emotions, and then I can communicate it. So maybe it's the same with your child. You need to figure out how they communicate, be aware of how you communicate, what are your triggers, but also understand your child's way of communication too. So this is what builds the trust. If we keep missing this, then our child is going to keep thinking like, "Oh, I can't come to my mom because they don't understand," right? They're going to be like, "I don't want to bring this up that I'm struggling with because they're just going to lecture me." Or that is what can happen if we don't allow this open communication. They don't trust you. They won't come to you for things. And what we want is we want them to come to us for things instead of them expecting, right, the world or other people or other influences. We want to be able to keep that open communication and trust with our children. So it's hard work on both ends. It definitely needs to happen on both ends. But we're gonna move on. I have a few more. Number 3 kind of ties into it. Lead with grace instead of shame. Discipline should shape character, not damage identity. Model humility. Offer correction with love. Children grow best when they know they are loved, even when they are being corrected. So we have these things that we've heard. Colossians 3:21, fathers, do not embitter your children, or they will become discouraged. Proverbs 15:1, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And I understand also growing up that like this may be hard to internalized because maybe you yourself didn't experience it from your parents growing up. And I understand that. I recognize that that is a thing, which is why I think my mom has said before she did the work. She learned how to communicate. She learned, um, she did research. How do I do this better? What do we do? And she improved. And that's why I think a huge factor as to why even I can still live with her and it'd be fine. You know, like we have this open relationship and this trust because you continue to offer grace first instead of shame. But I know it's so easy. Like when my kids mess up, it's so easy to be like, "Why did you do that? Like I told you this already. Like why didn't you listen to me?" That's the gut reaction, right? That's how we were parented. And but when you were being disciplined like that at work, does it work on you? How do you feel? Right? Like you're just like, oh, like I'm such a bad employee. I can't do this. I can't do that. It affects your self esteem. So we need to learn how to lead with grace, right? Because that's how our Father is. You know, think like the prodigal son. His son went off, did his own thing, but he didn't come back and immediately scold him or lecture him, right? The Father's heart is he embraced him fully, accepted him, and we don't know, maybe he did correct him afterwards, but like the first response is grace and acceptance and love. And again, not to disregard boundaries because those are important, those are needed. Um, but what is our first reaction? Um, that's the question. Okay, number 4, teach faith and culture as gifts, not burdens. Teach your child to appreciate their faith and culture while learning to engage thoughtfully with the world around them. So, one, don't treat American culture as automatically bad. There are some things about American culture that are great. There are some things that are bad. There are some things about Filipino culture that's great, but some that are also a little toxic. And so we just got to pick, right? Like, what are the Filipino values that you want to teach your children? And make sure like you communicate that to them. And so, and then to kind of wrap everything up, essentially keep relationship above performance. So more than their good behavior, more than their good grades, more than their careers or their success or their accolades, your greatest goal of a parent as a parent is not to raise a child who is merely obedient, successful, or religious. It's to raise a son or daughter who knows they are deeply loved, trust you enough to come to you, and eventually chooses faith and good character for themselves. So love first, teach wisdom, correct with grace, and give your child the freedom to go into the person that God created them.
Yeah. Which I could say keep the relationship above performance. I mean, I'm a testament of that. Um, I wanted to keep the relationship, the heart uh, of it was to be a good son for my parents, right? But that, again, that's kind of hard for a lot of people. But at least for me, testimony, I'm not the conventional son. I'm not the son who graduated college, who got a 9 to 5 job, who has a family of 2 yet, or X, Y, and Z, right? I didn't finish college. I worked for 14 years, and then I finally got promoted to be sales and marketing. But in that 14 years, I felt less than. Just because performance-wise, comparing myself to my peers, comparing myself to my expectation of what I should be doing, right? But through it all, I think the main thing that I've learned as in myself is that focus on what God wants me to do and what's good for me at that time. Just focus on that. Because, like the prodigal son, it's, I mean, the prodigal son was like, the son leaves, makes his own choices, fails, and eventually comes home, right? Um, I think I'm like the reverse prodigal son. I think the best character, you guys are all young parents or have watched children's movie. You guys know Moana? Moana, the island princess from Matanui. Matanui. And I think the first song that they come into um, that they have is pretty like my testimony is in the like the second chorus they say, "That's right, we're safe, and we're well provided. And when we look to the future, there you are. You'll be okay in time. You'll learn just as I did. You must find happiness right where you are." And I think that song hits me there because like I did find happiness here. This is my family. This is my church family. This is my church. This is my ministry. This is where I grew up in. And through that, like I've become a youth leader. I've become a worship director. I'm a primary 12. Um, so in the eyes of God or Christians, I'm successful. So then I have this identity crisis where conventionally in career wise and success and my performance in the world, I'm a failure. But then in ministry, in godly God's eyes, or and in the church's eyes, I'm successful. Pero merong ako, so you. Sorry, my Taglish. I feel this disconnect that I feel. Kasi I feel, point of view lang, black sheep ako. I'm the problem child. I'm the child who they have but don't promote. Because I've always heard, what is my point of view? They always tell, oh, Ati Pam is going to do residency, blah, blah, blah. Phoebe Boy, oh, just got married to Hannah, and they're expecting their child. Abe just finished his 2 degrees, and he's about to do blah, blah, blah. And Joshua's here. So I've learned in my life to learn how to promote who God sees me. When I was in my Amway tenure, in my 1 year Amway, they always come up and you kind of like do like a 5 second blurb of who you are. And I always had a problem with that because I'm like, hi, I'm Joshua. I'm 24. I'm a server. It just, I was like, oh, that sounds sad. And then Dylan's like, you're more than just a server, right? I was like, what do you mean? He was like, you lead the youth. You lead the worship team. You handle like a ministry. Be proud of that. And I was like, so then I learned when I came up, I'd be like, hi, I'm Joshua. I'm 25. I'm the youth pastor or youth leader at my church. Blah, blah, blah. And so like, the performance wise of it all, I've learned that to that it's hard to feel the worth if the expectations of everyone and yourself and the child isn't met. But learning how to trust in God through it all is, I think, helped with the relationship with the child. Saying, giving them support, helping them out, and encouraging them to continue forward, right? And my parents do this. That's why I'm the worship director now because God was like, "Where's your brother? How come you didn't do what do you call it? Prayer at this point, or you ended it too early. Don't follow just the lineup of the spirit." I was like, you know, and I've grown a lot from their input and that relationship with them, in the support that they have given, even though I felt the performance was lacking from on my end. But when you don't see or if you don't only you know, put the most importance or priority on their performance to in what is considered success, um, then that relationship will grow.
Yes. And then I guess I have some discussion questions at the end there that you can just ask yourselves, but like, think about things like what kind of relationship do you hope to have with your child when they're 25 or 30 years old, right? Right now there's a lot of millennials who are like cutting off, their parents because they're toxic, whatever. They don't listen. So, it's just an observation I mean. So it's like, what long term, how do you want to continue to parent your child? And what one again, I think you guys care about your children. I don't doubt that. I mean, you guys are here to learn, and so I think you guys are great parents. But there's also things we can improve on, right? So, again, thank you. And that's all I have. Thank you.